you. This is a meeting of Planning and Zoning worded in commission to order. Roll call. We have a quorum. Vice Chair Harry Turner is appearing telephonic. Are you there, Harry?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Could everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, call to the public. This is a business meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The town values and welcomes public input. Please address the commission as a whole and not individual commission members. Do not address staff or members of the audience. Commission action on items brought up and called to the public is limited to the open meeting law. The commission may direct staff to study the matter and reschedule for further consideration at a later date. Items on the agenda will not be heard or discussed and called to the public. Individuals are limited to 3 minutes. I have one card for a call to the public. Looks like everything is checked on the box. Mr. Ingalls, do you want to speak during this period?
Thank you, Chairman, Commission, staff. 40-plus year residents on Penrod Lane presently. Had a couple things I just want to address. It's a new year, and we have a lot of opportunities in our community now. And with new members on the Planning Commission, maybe a chance to work ahead, creating a atmosphere where the citizens can have involvement in the general plans, work sessions, and all that will be upcoming in a manner that will be meaningful to both the decision makers when voting time comes around, as well as the recommendation that will come from the Planning Commission. I know that with the updating going on, that the community survey results will be out, and maybe this will provide some guidance for both the commission, the council, and staff, as well as the citizens, as we can see what input came from the community in that survey. I look at this as an opportunity for our community as we look ahead. Having served in the past as a planning commissioner, a member of the 2020 Vision Committee, and having other committees in town that were, as an example, open space, I think that it's time maybe that we look at trying to establish a interactive citizens community that might be able to give input to both the Planning Commission as you guys move ahead, as well as ultimately for what will happen with our general plan in 2025. Maybe it's time for a 2040 Vision Committee that we can be looking further ahead at what impacts we can expect and how we'll handle trying to meet the vision and the general plan that has been adopted, as well as what changes could be proposed as we move ahead. I will bring up again that at times at meetings, if we had our zoning maps, our general plan maps, some of those things visible in the realm of the public coming to meetings, it might be more exciting and maybe entice people to come and get a feel for what is in the documents. Not everybody goes online for things, and I'm one of those. Within this 3 minutes, if it's possible, some point in the next months, maybe we could have an agenda item that might talk about establishing a citizens committee and how we would best interact with the commission and others. With that, I'm looking forward to a year ahead, and thank you for your commitment to serve our community.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ingalls. Minutes. Consider approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Planning and Zoning held on December 8th, 2022. Has any of the commissioners, Kinslick or Stewart, had an opportunity to review those notes for their accuracy?
Yes.
Do we have any questions or concerns in discussion?
No.
Ask for a vote. Someone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the December 8th, 2022 meeting.
I will second those. All members that have to abstain, please raise your arm and say aye.
Aye.
You're abstaining, Harry?
No, I said,
Yeah.
aye.
We have, just so it's kind of clear, we have two new commissioners, and those two commissioners weren't here, so they can't vote on it. So the aye was abstaining. So you need to vote yes or no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Turner, Stewart, and Kinslick and Salsco all voted in favor. Passing. All right. D, new business. Discuss the legal action regarding a minor land amendment to the land use element of the general plan, changing the land use designation from low-density residential to medium-density residential. I'm going to turn it over to Jeremiah for a staff report of recommendation on that.
So this area in the area in White Mountain Club Estates Unit 2, it came to my attention that this whole area is shown and reflected on our adopted general plan as low density. If you go and take a drive through the neighborhood, and I hope that the commission had a chance to visit the neighborhood, you'll see that the uses are all it's a pretty dense, compact area. What I have here in the packet identifies 14 parcels that don't meet the density requirements for Arlo. They're all under 1 acre, which is one of the primary drivers for that Arlo density designation. So it's kind of a question mark in my mind why it was ever shown as this, because it's not what's out there. Not only is it not what's out there, but everything around it is medium density. And you can see that reflected in the zoning. You can see it if you look at the general plan. The area, for whatever reason, I don't know, was mapped, in my opinion, incorrectly. So this is an effort on the town to correct our maps to accurately depict what is actually out there. This doesn't change anything. This doesn't mean that low-income housing is coming to the neighborhood. This just means that we're recognizing that what is out there doesn't match up with our adopted general plan. And so the request is to make a minor amendment, because it is a minor amendment. It's only 7.74 acres total, and there's 14 parcels. Do the math, it doesn't add up to 14 acres, which it should for Arlo. So the request is to adequately and properly reflect that as medium density on the general plan.
So just to be clear, in order to be Arlo, it must be 1 acre. This is non-conforming. None of it is an acre.
It's non-conforming, and it's a question mark as to why there was ever a building permit issued. It came to my attention, you'll see in the following item, a gentleman came forward, and he's here tonight. He asked for a lot line adjustment, and I couldn't grant the request because he doesn't meet the requirements for the Arlo zone.
So the only way to meet the requirements would be a combination, actually. Right? You'd have to buy 2 parcels to make it an acre.
Yes, unfortunately, he has 2 parcels, and even if he combined them entirely, it'd still be a tenth of an acre
multiple
shy.
acres is my point. You would have
Yeah.
multiple parcels.
Right.
So, okay.
So not only could I grant the request to do the lot line adjustment, if somebody else in the neighborhood came forward and said, I want to extend my porch or something silly even, and requested a building permit, I couldn't issue a building permit. It'd be the same situation for the other.
It's kind of rendering
There's
the property
12 of the parcels.
unusable.
Interestingly enough, there's 2 parcels that are already zoned R14. Another question mark, because they're shown as R-low in the general plan. Or not R-low, but low density, one dwelling unit per acre.
Do all these parcels have a structure on them, or are some of them vacant land?
I went out there today and it appeared that all of them already have homes on them. And so one of the other things is, and I'll get into that later, but in the next action, but part of the reason he couldn't combine these is also, even if he had an acre, there's 2 homes on it already built. That he purchased one that was already built over the threshold of 1,200 square feet, so it wouldn't qualify as a guest home even if he did have an acre. So there's 2 kind of strikes against him right there. And so
And
that
these are-
brought this whole thing to the surface, and I can't come forward with the zoning amendment without first amending the general plan to adequately depict what is actually out there.
Commissioner Williams?
Is that the 2 at the top that are zoned R14 right now? Is that the one with the 2 houses built?
Yeah, there's, on figure 1, it's 2979 and, what is that? 3015 South Indian Paint Lane. Those 2 are actually zoned R14.
Right. Are those the 2 with the houses on them?
They all have houses on them.
All these properties?
Yeah, they all, and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the homes in the neighborhood that are, let's see, it's White Mountain Club Estates Unit 1, that's zoned R14, and this part that's zoned R low because it's an identical characteristic.
So it is all part of the platted approved subdivision.
Right.
And if you look at all the surrounding areas, they're smaller lots also.
The majority of them are. I think I calculated 1,890 feet, I believe, on the exterior of this area that is already zoned R14. And that excludes, I think, those 2 that are zoned R14 that
So,
should
yeah, the
probably
original
not be.
developer just didn't make them big enough.
When was this
Right.
approved?
The subdivision,
It doesn't matter. It's there
60s
now.
or 70s.
it was before the town was incorporated, I would venture to say, because I found one building permit when I was investigating the split history of Mr. Sullivan's property that went back to 67. And then there was a building permit issued then and one in 1984 when the town was born, so.
Together.
So one of the other interesting things that I'd like to add, is that I found a note in the 2001 general plan that kind of spoke to the situation. It said something to the effect that if there was a lot that didn't meet the development standards for the land use that was dictated, that we would still issue at least 1 building permit for a single-family residential, which is kind of, it kind of matches up with what it says about open space if we don't get the underlying property owner's signature. So I think that's where that came from. But that is not in our adopted general plan. That language was struck, so there's nothing that speaks to the situation.
There's already homes on all of it, doesn't really
Right.
matter anyways.
Everything's already built. It doesn't
Everything's built,
change anything
developed.
really other than it depicts what is actually out there instead of
Commissioner Pence?
low density.
Yes,
general plan.
Jeremiah, the R14, of course, as you know, you can go down to 10,000. Is there potential for these lots to be further divided if we go to R14?
Most of the lots, if you'll look at the table on the item D1, they're already very small. Some of them are already a quarter acre. Some of them aren't, but they're definitely less than 1 acre.
Yeah, you would run into setback problems. I mean, so from a practical standpoint, that's inapplicable with the required setbacks. And then I don't even know if the subdivision has setback requirements on top of that, but I don't think you could.
As long as there's no further subdivisions, I'm okay.
They could legally subdivide if they met the development standards for R14.
And it met the HOA requirements, right?
Yeah, and there's no
So-
underlying deed restrictions.
So the
that I'm not
underlying deed
aware of.
restriction, I bet you 90% says you can't divide them. Maybe we don't have it, but.
Right, since the
There's
town doesn't enforce
variety.
the deed restrictions, I'm not aware of the deed restrictions, but
Yeah, I mean, that's like primary in any subdivision that you can't divide them. Okay. Mr. Ingles, would you like to speak on it? You got like a slash and a D and a period and an and stamp, right?
Yeah, and it does seem very appropriate for R14 to be in the neighborhood. It's long established, probably pre-existed most of the dwellings on the property before the town was even incorporated. And that size parcel now being recommended for the zoning would allow the existing homes to have lesser setbacks than in the RO district. And that might help people be able to add on garages, things like that, that would be very sensible and I think neighborhood and community friendly to go ahead with this change. On the D2 part, the reason I wrote a question, I didn't know, and I was only kind of worried if this might allow subdividing the larger parcels that are nearly an acre into several additional buildable lots. And if that would, if there were any intentions of doing that, I didn't see it in the literature. But if the applicant was able to answer that, that would just be something, I guess, comforting, that there wasn't a desire through this to create more buildable lots in that same area. Just my thought on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ingles.
Concern? So, actually.
Can we do D2 when we get to D2?
Well, I just want to address part of it, that the town is the applicant for this, for the first item. And then D2, Mr. Sullivan is the applicant.
Thank you. Mr. Terrell?
I'm a resident on Woodchuck Lane, one of the lots that is in question, highlighted here on the map, so I'm in favor of the amendment that you are, Mr. Jeremiah Lloyd has presented and is working towards. So I think it is, if there is future stuff that I'd like to do on my lot as well, I'd like this changed so that is not an issue in the future.
Thank you. Discussion?
Make a motion.
Okay, no discussion?
More, I think.
Oh, do you?
Thank you for allowing me to come up. I'm Barney Sullivan.
Absolutely.
And I own the two properties in question, and
Are you D2?
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
item D2.
you're D2.
D2.
Yeah, let's keep them separate. This
Oh,
is
I'm sorry.
D1. No worries. I'll have you
All right.
absolutely have your opportunity to come up and address this. Yeah, no, not a problem. Anyone else? I always ask. We're good? All right. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to recommend approval of the minor amendment to the general land use element for the following 14 parcels to the town council.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Unanimous, it passes. On to D2. Discussion and legal action regarding Z84, an amendment to the zoning of parcels from low-density residential to medium-density residentials. Mr. Lloyd?
So as previously discussed, this came to my attention when Mr. Sullivan came forward and simply wanted to combine the two lots shown on D2, 1693 and 1619 Woodchuck Lane that he purchased from a neighbor. And he was unable to, when I reviewed it and saw that he didn't meet the development standards for RLO. So the request is to show, once again, what is actually going on in the neighborhood and to change the zoning from, and the underlying development standards from R-low to R14. So Mr. Sullivan could proceed with his lot line adjustment.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan? We'll try it again.
I've owned our property at 1693 for about 15 years, and I've had several owners of the property I just purchased, 1619. Their property comes up behind mine, and there's a kind of a nice corridor between mine and my neighbors behind me. Kind of kept an open space. It's a nice corridor for the animals. And I was always afraid somebody was going to buy that and say, oh, there's a good place to put my old trailer and wrecked car and stuff. So I had a chance to buy the property this year when my neighbor Spencer had to move. So I bought it, and I've always wanted to incorporate that land into mine, 1693, just in case I ever had to sell this other property, so that I wouldn't have to run it, just to preserve that land. And well, I talked to Jeremiah, and there's no way I could, or anybody could ever build on it. I just want to preserve it as open land for the neighbors all around. It's kind of like a little park, you know, if you look at the design there. And that's my sole purpose, do this.
Thank you. So just to simplify it, we're just making where your house is, that lot bigger and the other lot smaller.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That's pretty much, we're not creating any new parcels. We have a structure on each one. There's no new homes. You can't build a new home on there. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any, Mr. Ingles? Okay. Discussion? Yes, Commissioner Bennett.
The lot, tie, lot assemblage, lot consolidation, whatever you want to call it. Do we have a copy of that?
A copy of the lot,
Yeah.
what it looks like. It should be on the agenda item on D2, the first sheet of the staff report. It's better that, I got the counties if you want from the plat, but there's a better.
The diamond
look at
is
D2.
the house where that he resides in now, and then the,
Correct.
you know, trapezoid or whatever geometric shape that is what he's purchased. And it sounds to me, or he could explain too, that he's taken the back part of that 1619 and just gonna move it into his, so it's less of a diamond.
Okay.
So
Right,
will
so it's not a
both,
subdivision, it's just a lot line adjustment, no new
Yeah,
parcels.
lot line
created.
adjustment.
and will both lots end up being approximately 0.4 of an acre?
No.
No?
One's gotta be bigger because one's 0.6.
One's gonna be over 1 acre.
I haven't looked at the, he submitted his lot line adjustment, but I haven't processed it completely, maybe he can speak to that.
You have to come up to the podium, so otherwise we can't, yeah.
I had it surveyed already, and I already paid for it surveyed where the
Sure.
fence is supposed to be. And I don't think both of them together is an acre.
So I guess the question is, they're both over a quarter though, right? They're pretty close to half each? Because
Yeah.
one looks like 0.63 and one's 0.26, so
Yeah.
clearly we're not gonna get an acre out of that. So we're looking to each parcel will probably be around a half.
Yeah, and if you got the numbers there, you probably don't have any numbers.
Yeah, 0.63 plus 0.26, so
Well, that's kind of irrelevant if we're gonna,
As long as he meets the
Realign
setbacks.
everything.
as long as,
Yeah.
and he's not building anything, there's not new
Right,
houses, there's houses
right.
on both of them already.
right,
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
thank you.
Any further discussion, Wayne?
There's two maps. Which one are we going by? Because that one shows 0.63 and 0.25, but the blue, the map with the 12 plots, shows 0.95 and 0.64.
Those are different acres.
Those are, yeah, they're different.
There's a whole, that's all of the parcels that were affected for the general plan, and this one's just specifically Mr. Sullivan's 2 properties.
I mean, this shows different acreage for each of those lots, A, B, C, and his lot, on this blue paper, it shows B and C, which is exactly what's written on that page with the green. It shows,
It's the same.
It's irrelevant, it's irrelevant. They're
It's
both-
irrelevant.
They're both over a quarter, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if you look at,
I don't
if you look at the
understand what you're
table,
getting at.
149A and 149B are 0.25 and 0.63, just like they're depicted here, but
yeah, but on the blue one, it shows 0.95 and 0.64.
those are
You're
different
looking at the
parcels.
wong thing.
I'm not. If you look at this, it says
It doesn't,
31147.
it does
Doesn't
not matter what it says. They're both over a quarter, and if we rezone it, they have to be at least a quarter. If
Right,
it's a
but I'm
least a
just-
quarter, that's fine, so.
I want to know which one's right, though. I mean, I don't care if it's, do you think
doesn't
it's relevant,
matter.
it is relevant, because which
Parcel
one's,
number is used twice.
These two
right,
right
it's
here.
used twice with different acreages, so which one's the right acreage?
You're looking at, you must be looking at the wrong
You're
parcels.
looking at
is
the
all I'm
wrong
saying,
parcels,
because,
because they're
No,
both the same.
they're,
Those are the same.
came from the same software, and they show the
Yeah. Oh,
exact
it's
same
140.
The same
acreage.
address.
Let's
It's
see,
one
one
for
Shows
three.
all
It's a
14
different
parcels,
parcel.
and one
It
shows.
does not matter.
It don't, it doesn't matter.
Look, it's,
You okay?
I was looking at the ones up higher.
Commissioner Turner?
oh, I was gonna say, just check the addresses. You're a little too high on the chart.
Yeah.
I know I was.
Okay, so we resolved that. Anyone, any other further discussion? Yeah, please approach the podium.
I'm also a neighbor of this lot here, and Mr. Sullivan, so I just wanted to show him I'm in favor of this amendment as well. I'm supportive of the decision to change his lot. works for me. So just wanted to.
No, thank you. It's good to get input by the people that would be directly affected by this. I
Yep,
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the request to change regarding Z84, an amendment to the zoning of parcels of low-density residential to medium-density.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Passes unanimously. And that concludes all the agenda items, and we stand adjourned.
Thank you, guys.